all men who like this game are predators.
What?
Don't be a creeper.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it. Hi guys, I'm Will with the Church Split.
And I'm Chris with the One Life NextG channel.
And today we're actually talking about a really hot controversy on video games of all things. And it's going to deal with toxic masculinity. It's also going to deal with the decline of birth rates. And who would have thought that a video game would bring up this controversy, Chris?
I know. And I think we're going to get into maybe a larger thing of storytelling and how culture is shifting in how we tell stories.
Absolutely. And so before we go ahead and break this down for you, I could break it down, but just so you guys know, this has exploded all across the gaming space and nerd culture, even in the general culture.
So I'd heard of this game, but then I didn't realize there was a controversy behind it until you brought this up. And so I dug into it a little bit, and I'm excited to get into this.
I'm really excited to talk about this because something I'm really passionate about, and I'm also kind of mildly annoyed with the cultural conversation that it's even a thing. But the game's called Pragmata, and we're going to talk about it. But first, I want you guys to watch this clip.
And of course we had Mary Morgan coming out and saying that men only feel paternal instincts for their own children and no one else's. Therefore, if you felt anything paternal towards the robot in this game, you're likely a predator, and I'd have to be a feminist to disagree with that. Despite this being the stereotypical feminist attitude, which has been pushed since its inception. The very idea that women are nurturers and men have no place around kids has always been one of the main thrusts of feminism because it enables them to virtue signal to cover up their personal gain. I think the interesting question, though, is why does it provoke this response? How does that affect storytelling? And why now? Why do so many people get offended just at the very suggestion that men actually might make good fathers, and that women should probably have kids? Because I think out of all the demonstration I showed, there were different reasons for each person why they push that kind of perspective. But I do find it interesting after years of horrible, depressing, deconstructionist, miserable stories where the men are dragged down, heroes don't exist, and evil is good all of a sudden. That the moment stories start to go, we should probably make some more money now, we might want to start appealing to men. Maybe it's time we started telling people that they can build something to improve their lives. Then suddenly the degenerates come out and have a problem with it.
So this game, just so everyone's aware, and the reason why he's talking about fatherhood and all that stuff is because the game you play as an only in video games does this make sense. Yeah. You play as an astronaut who goes into this space station apparently, and you encounter like an android little girl. So she's like an AI that's like as a little girl, but she's got the mentality of a little girl as well. And the whole point of the game is that you're supposed to protect this little girl from all the rogue AI robots out there. And so you guys work together, you build a bond together, and she like draws in like little pictures of crayon and like gives it to you as a gift, and she's super cutesy. And now apparently they call it a dad simulator game.
Yeah.
Apparently this is bad.
So, okay, but video games have been doing this for a while. The Last of Us, you have to protect Ellie.
Yep, Ellie. Yep.
And then you have to, I think one of the Resident Evil games, you're protecting a little girl. What's the?
In fact, I'm playing Resident Evil 2 right now, and there's a little girl in that game that you have to protect. Yeah.
And what's the one with the big robot guy? And he, it's underwater.
You're not help. Oh, BioShock.
BioShock. Is there in there?
BioShock 2. You protect one of the little sisters.
Yeah.
You have God of War, also known as Dad of War, where you got a son, and there's The Walking Dead. That's a thing too. And this has been a video game trope for a while because men tend to play video games, and men really attach this idea of you get to be the protective father of this young, vulnerable individual.
So why is Pragmata? Why has that shifted the cultural? Like, why are people mad about this one versus some of the other ones?
Well, I think one is because we have gotten to another level of like 17th wave feminism, where the idea of anyone having children is almost bad. I mean, you see the birth rates right now, and the abortion rates are where they're at. We see the fact that yes, women more and more right now, less so than men, actually want children, and that's statistically just true. But also, I think the reason why is because it's a little girl in a lot of those games. It's oftentimes you play at, and it's like you're a dad of a little boy, or like in The Last of Us, maybe because they made Ellie more assertive and stuff. But that was also like that game was what 10 plus years ago.
Yeah. And well, so in some of those too, the father figure is this hurt person. Like he's disgruntled. He's had a hard past, and so you don't maybe relate to him as much as some of the other. I mean, yes, we've all had some things happen in life, but I think in those games in particular, it's like, oh, these people are almost broken and then this kid helps them get through that.
Yeah, like find their humanity through it. Like that's like the God of War thing, right? He's like a broken shell of a man, but still trying to be the best dad he can be. And then he, reignites this bond between father and son.
Spoiler alert, not in Last of Us, that guy. But yeah, so with Pragmata though, it's a guy that apparently has kind of a broken past, but he's like gotten through that, and so he's kind of in a healthy spot, and he's just like taking care of this girl, and she draws him pictures and makes him laugh and does like
and he plays little games with her, and like she goes to plays and hide and seek. She's like, I'm gonna hide in a really hard spot, and then it's like kind of out in the open. And what's funny is that a lot of these women that are saying this online is a lot of women. Like, let's just call it what it's so weird to me, because they're like, no child actually acts like this. I'm like, this tells me already that you don't have kids, and you're commenting about parenting and like dogging on men for wanting to parent.
Yeah.
While at the same time, you probably don't have your own, because I have a 5-year-old daughter. The amount of times she's like, let's play hide and seek, and she hides in the most obvious spot ever. And I have to be like, where are you, Ellie?
I have an 8-year-old. He still can't hide very well. It's so funny. I mean, yeah, he'll hide behind this chair, and then you just like hear him laughing when you walk by. Like okay, like, you can't laugh if you're hiding. So.
The whole point of hide and seek is I'm not supposed to know where you're at,
Do better, son.
And but what's crazy is that then all these people are coming out, like they're calling them incels, people who like the game. And incels are people who, for those who are not familiar with internet language and you're not perpetually online or working with the next generation like us, an incel is someone who is involuntarily celibate. Yes. So they don't want to be celibate. They want to have intimate relationships, but they can't because they're like a loser or something.
Yeah.
And so they call them incels. And so they're saying that any man who enjoys this game or resonates with that side of being a dad with the game's story is somehow an incel, which actually drives me crazy on that. And I'll comment on that in a minute. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, because the lady's quote, I don't know if you can rewind it.
I have it right here.
Or
lots of strange reactions to this game. Let's clear some things up. Childless men do not have paternal instincts the way that childless women have maternal instincts. We observe this even in the way little girls play versus little boys. Men first experience paternal instincts once they have their own children, and typically those paternal instincts are only ever felt for their own children and no one else's. Men are not nurturers. Men don't gush over cute kids in public. Men don't have baby fever. If a man wants to possess a child for any reason other than it being a product of his own lineage, he is likely a predator.
Okay, so let's go to science. A lot of these people like science. Okay, so
usually,
yeah,
when it suits their interests.
Yeah. So I teach a class on this, and your brains are very cool. God created us to connect with other people, and one of the ways that He did that is through chemicals in our brain that are released during childbirth, during sexual pleasure, during just interactions with people, like even hugging for about 10 or more seconds, it releases these chemicals. And so one of those is oxytocin, and that is in men and women, but primarily in women. And that is just physical touch, snuggling. It acts as a stress buster by lowering cortisol levels and inducing a sense of calmness. But vasopressin, and that's mainly released in men. They also have oxytocin, but vasopressin is the main chemical in men. It often is called the sister hormone to oxytocin. It is particularly linked to long-term commitment, protective instincts, and territorial bonding in men. In some men, different variations of vasopressin receptors can even influence how much they naturally enjoy cuddling or nest-building behaviors. And so God has put that in us as men to even when we're like, hugging like somebody that we're dating, like there's those instincts, and even when we see kids, like that's released in us to have this protectiveness of I want to help this person, and so to say,
and it's uniquely stronger in men. That's the interesting thing.
And to say, oh, if men are feeling this, they're predators. That's ridiculous, Mary Morgan. I mean, it's kind of this thing of like
it is the most out of touch, unreal, take I've ever seen, and it's all over the internet. All these people saying this.
Okay, toxic masculinity, if I can say that word. I'm so angry. But toxic masculinity is this thing of like, well, men are these like tough guys and do all this stuff, and then when they're like, oh, we want to be protectors and protect the family and have, then they're like, well, you're bad too. Like how do we win? We
Yeah,
just
so it's like,
sit in
for
the corner
years,
and cry.
you've told that men that like, okay, if you're too violent or aggressive, that's toxic.
Yeah.
If you're too controlling, you're toxic. If you're this, you're toxic. Competitive, toxic. All of it's toxic. So then you see a man actually doing what a good man should do, which is guide and protect and encourage those around. And suddenly that's bad too. You're an incel. You'll never touch a woman, as they've been saying on there. And I'm like, so men can't win. When a man steps into a good role, it's like, I love this. I want that. I want this goal in my life. I want to be a good father like this. And this makes me, as they say, it makes my broveries grow, or whatever, as they called it.
I've never heard the term broveries till one of these videos.
So funny.
Broveries.
But I've known so many young men, and you and I both work with Next Gen.
Yeah.
And so I work with a lot of teenagers, and you've worked with a lot of teenagers and stuff. And one of the things with Next Gen is like, I ask the boys, hey, what are your goals in life? And every single boy goes, I want a good job. And I'll go, why? And because I want to support a family, I want a wife, and I want kids. Every single teenage boy I know all say that they want children.
Yeah.
So it's not true. Like, it's like they all already have a paternal instinct. And also, I've seen that paternal instinct in my older boys toward their younger siblings. I've seen it when it comes to them with their nieces and their nephews, kids in the church, making sure they're protected. Like, I see that in the young men. That is a good thing. Like, all throughout human history, women were always the nurturers who kind of took care of the internal management of the home because of how their biology works. Like, women can literally take care of a baby in ways that I cannot, you know?
Yeah.
And men always took care of the external. So women dealt with the internal threats, you could say, and men with the external. That's good. Why wouldn't we encourage this?
Yeah. And it's weird. It's almost like God created us to be in a marriage and have kids. And so one's a protector, one's provider, like those different things that like we're born with, like the brain chemicals that we have support that. And so the other thing I find interesting is she's like, all men are this. And you're like, wait a second. I thought you got mad when people like, when you just categorize one lump sum of people, like all men who like this game are predators. You're like, what? And the other side is that it implies that people that play video games are these like, there's this mindset, I think like late 90s, early 90s, of like anybody that played video games was living in their mom's basement. That's an adult, is a man that's overweight, living in his mom's basement, eats pizza, cold pizza, whatever. And
has no real friends.
Doesn't have friends except weird gamer friends, and never talks to girls and all that stuff. It's like, no, gaming has shifted drastically in the past.
I know, and that's why it's like, these
20 years.
These guys are like, and they just say like they're sexless men. They don't have no intimate relationships. I'm like, I'm a gamer with 2 kids and a full-time job, and I'm stable.
4 kids. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what sort of like, I let's just say what the kids call it. It's a boomer take. And I'm like, that's like, was some sort of out of touch thing from the 80s still being brought up, like, these losers who do this. I'm like, it is actually the new vein of storytelling. Like, video game industry is larger and makes more money now than the Hollywood industry does, like the movies.
And I do like that meme that's like, how do you know your husband won't cheat on you or something? And then it cuts to him playing Magic the Gathering with a bunch of friends. Or he's like opening packs. He's like, what's your man doing right now? He's like opening packs, like, I got this card or whatever. Okay, but you said Hollywood. So so if we can transition just a little bit into, because I like what this guy says. I don't know who this guy is, so I don't know his other stuff, but he says there's a shift now because of these things. He said, Xavier said earlier, like, hey, they want to make money. And so Hollywood is even realizing like, there's some outside shifting happening. And so can we play this next?
Absolutely. Let's check this out.
I'm a host now.
Yeah, you're good.
See, after Project Hail Mary, even the Hollywood Reporter came out and said that Hope Core is the vibe shift that Hollywood needs. After decades of gritty, pessimistic movies and TV shows, it's content which evokes a feeling of hope, glee, and wholeness, which are doing so well this year. There was this trend in media for people to view any kind of sentimentality or earnestness as cringe or corny. We've seen a lot of cynicism in the 21st century, but now there seems to be a vibe shift away from deconstructing the past, instead to nostalgia for some positive vibe that we lost during the deconstruction. Who would have thought that destroying everything, burning it to the ground, could have possibly had negative consequences? What you're witnessing with these movies is someone like Hassan Piker's worst enemy. The ability to admit that you've gone down the wrong road and need to go back, that their so-called progress was a mistake, and we need to go back to a time when things were better. And it wasn't even that long ago. I lived through it.
So this is, and to his point on this, and it's so true because it's like one of the things that for the longest time, or the last about decade or so, would you say, uh, they have talked about, like, okay, you have Game of Thrones. Right, you have Game of Thrones, and it was like nihilistic, horrible. They even like completely botched the ending, ruined characters. The same thing, and the boys, is like this vulgar and like again pessimistic, nihilistic. Nothing really matters in the end. And all these shows that have been just filled with horrific stuff.
Well, yeah, the anti-hero, where it's kind of like, oh, there's this guy that you kind of relate to, but not like you understand why he's the way he is, but it's all, there's no hope in those things. And so hope core, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that term before. And so like, oh, they're going to, instead of hardcore, hope core.
And that's why, like, people think when they think of movies, like, what is the perfect movies of all time? Well, almost every single person you ask, they'll always say the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I think Citizen Kane, but okay.
Okay, well, you're wrong. But like Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings trilogy has kept all this stuff at its core. But one of the things that people have talked about over and over again is how it literally has a magic ring, and you have to take it to a place called Mount Doom. That sounds like so corny, but it sells it so genuinely. And so you're like, but there's a sense of genuineness. It's like, okay, is that cringe? Or because it sells it proper, are you bought in to the theme of the story, So I think that's all really important stuff and interesting. But one thing I definitely wanted to check out here was this. Do you mind if we play the next
No, go ahead, yeah.
Let's do this thing. I this whole topic I have found fascinating and frustrating.
You can see the difference, and even in current stories at the moment. You've got Invincible going, I aborted your kids and it's your fault. The Capcom. Having kids is cool, actually. Only one of these positions has a future in society. The Invincible storyline, by the way, I think it's worse than it sounds in that quote. She doesn't just blame him, but the show makes him apologize to her.
I had an abortion. I found out just before you left. I didn't tell you, and when you were gone, I was so alone. I made a decision.
Eve, sorry I did this to you. I should have been here.
This happened in the same series. One of his arcs as being understanding that actually bad things happening to awful people is good. And sometimes there are reasons when people are better off buried.
So, I mean, even right here, it's like, again, and only one of them has a future. I think that's one of the most important things, because right now birth rates are so low, and people are saying, oh, I don't want kids. Like, I'm living my best life. I'm vibing, whatever. As if kids are a burden.
Oh, they are. Yeah. I have 4 of them. No, kids are great. Yeah. There's definitely difficulties in parenting, and there's things, because we're all human. We sin, we mess up, and there's awfulness in life, but there's also, hope, and there's joy in seeing my kids growing up and making decisions to follow Jesus, and basing decisions on what does God want for my life versus what do I want for my life.
And like I've said, like so many times, like my kids there's been days because of this, both my girls are just not having it, and it's been, I've probably been more stressed and exhausted at the end of some of those days when it's just a hard day at home. But also, I have felt more joy and fulfillment and excitement than anything else has ever given me in my entire life, being around my kids and seeing the stuff that they accomplish and do.
Yeah. And that's where like good storytelling comes in, because it captures those moments of, this is hard. Like in Pragmata, you're like, you have to keep this android girl alive. Like, and so we don't really experience that every day, but there are those stressful moments of I've got to provide for my kids and keep them healthy and safe, and I got to bring money home so they can eat and all this stuff. But at the same time, there is joy in that. There is this sense of accomplishment of I've done something at the end of the day where it's, wow. I mean, that's why men that have a family make more money, because they're more driven, because they're like, I've got to provide for my family.
Yeah, if I don't work, the family don't eat. And this goes into, again, part of that core principle. Only one of these has a future. Your little childless future, aborting your kids left and right, has no future. That's just death in the end. We all die. But one of them requires, a lot of work and self-sacrifice. But that's also, oddly enough, that's a very masculine thing, where men have died protecting people more than any other group has. Men have gone to war to protect children and women. You hear all these stories about there in times of war of how men protected others, and people are going to bring up all the negative things of men. Yeah, men have done bad stuff. Women have too. But men at their best are protectors. And men have always died and have always self-sacrificed for others. Even that very hormone itself is like that whole commitment and loyalty thing that it kicks on. That is a I will die for my family level of loyalty that men have.
Yeah. And that's why, I mean, because some of those great stories that are told have that principle of the man being a protector. And I know there's going to be some people out there like, well, women can be protectors too. Women can, yeah, sure. God has made us different, and that's okay. And I think the feminist movement has been away from it's been equality, but then you have things like this. They're like, no, it's not equality anymore. It's us being in charge of everything. That, like,
or just hating on men as a whole.
Well, and that's the original curse. Like, it was the desire will be for the woman to, I didn't say rule over her man, but like to
before her husband, but it means that like in a negative way, like I want his position kind of thing.
Yeah, and but he will rule over. And so there's this cosmic battle that's been going on since the inception of sin in the world that we will struggle with and wrestle with. And so there are differences between men and women. You can tell, I mean, from biologically, it's like bone structure and anatomy and things like that. But there's also, our chemical makeup and different hormones, and all that is designed by the Lord to create this perfect family that's not going to be perfect because we have sin, but it's designed to complement one another.
Yeah, and it's also meant to reflect the image of God.
Yeah,
the masculine and the feminine, but all these things working together. And of course, women are protectors too. No, yeah, we've all heard the story of women who lift up of course, like lift a car. But also, men are also nurturers. Even though men are primarily protectors and providers, they are also again. These are all dealing with like strengths and what's your primary, right?
Yeah.
I'm primarily a protector and a provider, but also I nurture. There's Eliana did something a couple weeks ago, and whenever she does something, I'm like, "Hey, honey, that was awesome." Give her a high five. I'm like, "I'm proud of you," and I'll say, make sure speak life into my child. And she said something. I was like, "Oh, that's great, honey." And she goes, "Are you proud of me?" And I was like, "Yes, honey, I'm proud of you." What is that if not nurture? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and the fact that we invest. Yeah, keep going.
No, because I don't want to say like all men are this and all women are this, because I said that earlier. Of that lady saying, "Oh, yeah, all men that do this." So, yes, there are exceptions to the rule. There are things that
there are tendencies.
Different, but there are things that distinctively are more prominent in most of the men, and there's more things that are prominent. There's some things that are more prominent in most women. And we're not saying one is better than the other. I think that's where
I get so tired of that. It's like, why is it a competition?
Yeah. And so it's not like, oh, just because women are more of the nurturers, then that means men are better. Like, no, we're not saying that. And so it's funny that a video game has brought this out because as I was digging into it, I was like, oh, there's a lot of videos out there on this of like people either being really mad about it or people like, why are people mad about this? Kind of like, it's okay.
And it's like, is that not good this is why the power story, like we were talking about, the power story is that it reaches into that inner part of your soul and brings out something out of it that you never had. Or it makes you realize that, no, that is something I resonate with, or I'm not that character, but I want to be that character. Like when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be like Spider-Man. It's because I had a hard upbringing, but I saw Spider-Man be the best person ever, despite all his horrible things that he went through. I resonated with that story, and it encouraged me to step into it and be better. And I'm still not as good as Peter Parker, because if I had those powers, I'd probably still deck someone through the wall. But the aspiration is there. But that's what the power of storytelling. And it's like, what more could you want for young men than to raise them to be responsible protectors?
Yeah, and the other fun thing was, I think it shows it later in the clip, but it's a bunch of women streamers reacting to. There's a part where the girl gives a picture, and there was one girl that's like crying, and she's like, "Oh, this is so sweet. I don't even like kids or want kids, but this is just and she's like tearing up, and like, yeah, that's
your biological clock, sweetheart.
Yeah, and that's okay. And like when people are like, "Oh, that's wrong for people to have this reaction," like, no, just because somebody likes kids and thinks, "Hey, I want a family someday," doesn't make them a predator. Like that.
Oh, I know. And yes, I know there are some people, and some people point out, well, they had to shut down Reddit, the Reddit thing, because there's people who are making creepy things about the girl. I understand that, but it's also Reddit. You're kind of in the dumpster fire of the internet there, and every single thing that's ever been produced in video games, movies, everything have creepy people involved. So to use that exception as the whole is just crazy to me.
Don't be a creeper.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it, or we'll have fun hunting. Sorry, but the whole thing here is a good thing to encourage this sort of thing. We need a return to goodness in our culture, and our culture has been in depravity for so long. Suddenly, something wholesome comes up, and they're even calling it like Nazi propaganda. because you're protecting. They're like,
because she's white. Yeah.
you're protecting a little white girl. I'm like, oh, white girl, blue eyes, little Aryan girl. Yeah, it's Nazi propaganda. I'm like, or is this a little girl? That's the problem with people when you think of it in that sense. And then first thing when I heard about this was I thought about the movie Man on Fire with Denzel Washington, where he protects this little white girl throughout the thing, and like the whole end is that after they build this bond, he gives himself up to the mobsters. And
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Sorry. Yeah, it's like 20 years old. If you haven't seen it, it's your fault. And like he gives himself up for this little girl to save her, and it's like to this day, it's like burned in my mind as I was I think in middle school when I saw it.
Whoa.
I know, but I was like, I remember resonating with that because I just saw the self-sacrificial like nature of what masculinity ought to be. Like, die for people who are innocent or who are young or women or those who are just be willing to die for others in a self-sacrificial way, and that's masculinity.
Yeah. And as this whole culture is shifting, one of the people at the lead of this, which is very bizarre to me, is Nate Bargatze. Yeah, because I mean, he said on the Nate Land podcast for years, he's like, I watch these shows and they're bleak, they're dark, they're just full of like, I get done and I'm like, I just feel like everybody's awful and all
I need to take a bath after watching that.
And he said he tried for many years to make shows and other things that were like kind of, he said they're not for kids, but like it's okay if your kids are in the room. So family friendly, but that even has a connotation. So he's like, I just wanted to make things that you could experience as a family that were wholesome and like build people up and not just this negative darkness. And he said for years nobody would allow him to do anything. He said like the pilots that he pitched for TV shows, the movies, like all that stuff. And he said finally I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. And he has, I think it's set to make the most money of any comedy tour ever. His Big Dumb Eyes tour that's going on now, like it's around the world, but he's selling out arenas. Wait, arenas or stadiums? Which one? What's the smaller one? The smaller ones, stadiums. Yeah. So, but I mean, he's selling them out like so much that, I mean, we have one here in Evansville. He ended up making a 3:00 show on a Saturday afternoon because the first one at 7 sold out. And I think they sold out the 3:00 one. And so like everywhere he goes, he's selling out stadiums because people are like wanting this content. And so now he's got a movie coming out. He's got a game show. I think they're doing some TV pilots. He's building a theme park, but it's all around this idea of like, people want this. He's like, people want to have fun. People want to do good things. And
I've even thought about it with my own daughter. Like she's 5 and I'm like, man, what Zootopia 2 came out. That's about it. Like there's nothing that's family friendly. Most places have gotten rid of their play places. Most places have it's like such an unfriendly world right now to families. And so, yeah, I'm glad that's successful because we need more positivity and hope core as they're calling it. Because I think it'll spur people into goodness, and I think we need more of that rather than just pure negativity.
It's amazing that the Lord said this the whole time, and we are just now figuring it out. So
yeah. So in other words, for all those people who think it's negative out there, no, you're wrong, and you're actually making it worse because now you're telling men that like, okay, so I guess even when I'm good, I'm horrible, toxic, and a Nazi. Like what? So, and then on top of that, like, we need to encourage our young men to be protectors, protect them. I say this to them even when they're like dating. I'm like, hey, so you're dating that young lady? Like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So, I started talking about boundaries, physical boundaries. And I was like, so what is your number one job as a man? And they, mentioned some things like that. Almost every single one of them, first one or two, they'll say protect her. I was like, oh, so you want me to protect your girl? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. Protect her from yourself too. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like physically, like if you have intimacy with her and you get her pregnant, do you think you protected her? No, like you've created a vulnerable situation for her. And so and it was funny, it was once I started framing it like that, I see a lot of the boys go, oh yeah, like they resonate with that in a way as opposed to what we tell our boys nowadays, which, oh, well, hey man, just use protection instead of protect her. It's like,
oh, that's good.
What are we doing? Like, it's like, no, protect her from yourself. And so that way you set her up for success. So that way, if you are her husband, if you're going to get married and be her husband, then great. But if you're not, and you moved into intimacy anyway, what'd you do? Well, now you're her baggage that she has to explain to her real husband one day. Do you want to be that? Do you want to protect her or not? Protect her. And so anyway, all this stuff is all connected. And it's like, well, let's get back to some traditional values here. Family is good.
Yeah. I say traditional, biblical values. Like this is how God created us to be. And so I have nothing else to say about this.
Yeah, I could go on about this probably for another 2 hours, but the point is, guys, is that this is all good. Families are good. This stuff is insane. And we need to just make sure we condemn it and make sure we're encouraging our young men and women to embrace what God created them for. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a family. And just because you play a video game doesn't mean you're a predator. This sort of video game. Yeah. You know.
Hey, let us know in the comments what favorite video game is that you play.
Yeah, let's make it specific. What's your favorite parent simulator game? Is it Dad of War? Is it Walking Dad?
Octodad.
You
play that one?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's so bizarre. You're an octopus and you're trying to pretend to be a human, and so the controls are really so you're like walking your daughter down the aisle, but like all the chairs are sticking to you and like everything you're like trying to, and it's like real hard to control. So you're like dragging chairs and you're trying to not be caught that you're really an octopus and not a human. That
sounds hilarious.
It is really funny. It's I think from PS3. It's an old game.
Yeah. Or just let us know your favorite game. Either way, guys, take care. God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.